I appreciate that.
Because I only saw you in character.
Yeah.
You good? Okay. Awesome. Yes, it is.
Thank you. Means a lot.
All right. Welcome to our friends here in person, our friends at home. Welcome to this month's Inside Signature. This is the last Inside Signature of this season. For those of you who don't know me, my name is David, and I'm the Director of Education here at Signature Theater. Before we introduce our guest and the house rules for this afternoon, a couple announcements, a couple things that are going on and coming up here at Signature. First off, we'll be talking about Where the Mountain Meets the Sea a lot today, so if you've not seen it yet, please get your tickets. That runs through July 7th. Also running through July 7th in the Max is our production of Hair. Both are fantastic productions, and we hope to see you here in the theater soon. Coming up soon after that, on June 22nd, well, before the closure of those shows actually, June 22nd here in the Max at 11 a.m., we have our Overtures class of 2024 performing their annual showcase. If you're not familiar with the Overtures, it's a unique training program for college-age musical theater students. For the 2 weeks leading up to that showcase, they are here 11 hours a day, 6 days a week, getting training from the best in the business, and it climaxes with their showcase here. Several Overture students have been featured in our main stage season this season. Shortly after that, on the 29th, we have the annual Broadway in the Park at Wolf Trap. Come see several Signature favorites and Broadway favorites performing there. And then we're taking a hiatus from the Inside Signature perspective. We'll be back here in September meeting with somebody from Soft Power. So if you've not been to one of these before, the format is pretty simple. If you have questions, raise your hand and ask them. For our folks at home, if you have a question at any point for our guests, just send it in through the chat, and a staff member will pass it on to us at an appropriate moment. We have with us today Robert Cornelius, who is currently in Where the Mountain Meets the Sea. How you doing today, Robert?
Doing pretty good, thanks.
Good. Thanks for meeting with us today. So you've done theater, film, music all over the country.
Yes.
First time in D.C., yeah?
First time doing theater in D.C.
In D.C. Okay, yeah, music. How's it been going for you here so far?
It's pretty great, actually. Good. I mean, it's an emotional piece.
Yeah.
So we were kind of sequestered. You got to go home and sleep it off after rehearsal every day. But it's been going pretty great.
Good. And out of curiosity, for my friends who are here in person, who here has seen the show so far? Okay, so about 3/4. Okay, yeah. So we'll try not to spoil everything, but it's a tricky show. Good. And let's jump back to the beginning of your story. Where did performing begin for you? Were you the kid making your own plays in the apartment, or was it church, community theater?
I was the talent show kid when I was really young. From first grade on, I was doing talent shows. But I started auditioning for commercials when I was 8.
Wow.
Yeah, which my father hated at the time, but it was, my mom was like, he said.
Did you start booking them at 8 too?
I booked a couple, yeah.
Oh, fantastic.
I did, but I really started, it was a church group when I was in the youth, the part of the young group at church. We did a play about Malcolm X and Martin Luther King, and I got to play Malcolm X when I was 12.
Wow.
And we got to do that at Northwestern University, which was like, oh my gosh, this is a real thing.
Yeah.
And then and then I was the president of the drama club in high school, all that kind of stuff, and the theater. And then I got to college, and my dad was like, well, you don't need to get a theater degree. So my bachelor's is in communications.
Okay.
With media, but I took enough. I took the whole theater curriculum as well, but I thought I was going to get a double, two degrees, but you have to pay for it. You still have to pay for the second degree. So I know that I got all the training that I needed. Yeah, so, and I was supposed to go back for my MFA in 1983, but it's a small school in the middle of the south middle western part of the state, and I just wanted to get back to Chicago. And my 5th audition, I got cast and play.
Amazing. So did you grow up in the Chicago area then?
Yes,
okay.
And still I actually live in the house I grew up in.
Oh, no kidding. That's amazing. Yeah. And it sounds like family was supportive-ish.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. And when I was very young, my dad was talking about this last night at the post-show discussion. I was being groomed to be a lawyer from the womb. I was signing thank you cards to my grandparents, Robert Cornelius Esquire, when I was 6, 7 years old. So. Yeah, but then it took to my senior year at college for him to come around, but he saw me in Raising the Sun, and I got a 9-page letter from him.
That's amazing.
And he followed my career till he passed away.
Wow. And was that the first professional show then that you?
No, the first professional show was a play called Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead
Yeah.
by Tom Stoppard. That was in a small storefront theater in Chicago, but it was my fifth audition, and I got cast, and then the artistic director and I got to be very good friends, but they needed somebody to make Gertrude's gown, and my last summer in college was working in the costume shop where we did Hello Dolly, No No Nanette, and the Fantastics, and we built everything.
Yeah.
And I learned how to pattern and sew, and so I was like, if you have the fabric, I can make Gertrude's gown, and I ended up doing half the costumes for the show, and then they asked me to join the company.
That is one way through that door. That's amazing.
It worked out pretty great. I was there until I got my equity card, as a matter of fact. So.
Okay. So you doing talent shows as a kid, started auditioning and booking the commercials at 8. This was always the plan then for you, right?
Yeah, as far as, I had to figure out how to monetize it. It was the thing. But yeah, this is, in a roundabout way, I took a very circuitous route. But yeah, this is what I've always been hoped to do and planned to do, yeah.
That's fantastic. You also were an education director for a while.
For 11 years.
Victory Gardens.
Yes.
Talk to us about what led you to that move. Because it's the same world, but it's different.
It's different, but that's one of my former students right there, as a matter of fact, from Chicago.
That's fantastic. Love that.
Who surprised me today, which is really exciting. But who was also an actor.
Love it.
His parents probably can't stand me, but neither here nor there. But education has always been a really big part of our family, and so my sister had an alternative school in downtown Chicago for decades, and I adapted. I came on board with her there as the president, and we did arts education as well. But I've always been interested in training kids and giving that back to somebody what somebody gave to me. Because when I was in high school, it was the 70s, and we had an embarrassment of riches as far as arts went. We got to go to see stuff all the time. We had people coming into school all the time. It was just, and so it always seemed like it was a possibility for us, you know what I mean? And so I want to make sure that people coming up after me feel the same way around that same age when you're starting to decide what you want to do with your life.
Yeah, that's amazing.
You were a teacher, like
Yes.
Gene. Yeah.
Yes. We have a lot of comments. Yeah. As a matter of fact,
That's really beautiful. I love that. And were you performing during that time, or did you take a hiatus?
Actually, I took a hiatus for a while because the job was, you have to be at school at 7 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
So I took a hiatus for about 4 years, and then a friend of mine was directing Aida. And saw me online on like Facebook at 6 o'clock in the morning. He's like, "You want to come and do Aida?" And I was like, I don't know if I can work it out with work. He's like, "Don't worry about it. Just like we'll have you as an understudy, a swing, and you can come when you can." And it worked out that I was able to get to all the rehearsals and got to go on for a couple of weekends. And that was after I had been at Victory Gardens for 4 years, and that kind of like rekindled some fire. But it was actually a student from Sin Arts named Ariane Roach, who was a really gifted kid, I had long-term partnerships with school, so I had known her since her freshman year, and so she was a junior, and she asked why they had never seen me on stage. He's like, "Do you just not act anymore?" And I thought, it's time I thought it was time to practice what I preached, because I've been, drilling stuff into their heads that I'm sure you still remember. But I just, and so I started doing stage readings again at first, and then I, started getting cast, and ended up having to leave the job because I was cast in a show a play that was commissioned for the theater. I was one of the cast members in that show, and I had to make a choice.
Oh, wow. Okay. Was that a tricky transition going back into acting?
Not at all.
No, that's great.
Because I had been doing it, teaching it.
Yeah.
For a decade, and I've been teaching overall. I started teaching in 1996, but I was doing adult classes first, and a lot of high school stuff. But it was a funny thing that it was so easily accessed, because I had been talking about it for so much of the time to so many kids over the years, and I developed a whole program around it, and so. It was surprisingly easy, because when I went away before, I took a scene study class just to see if I could still had it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that was when after I had been a rock star for a couple of years.
I got questions
A different
about that
lifestyle,
too. Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? But that, it was easier this time because I felt like I was ready. I was much more ready. When I was younger, I started auditioning right out of college, and I didn't really have a chance to do things and live a life as a grown-up. I was already on the treadmill, and I was always, So in 1997, I stopped for 4 years and just went back to my bartending job and just caught my breath and grew up a little. And I feel like when I came back this time, I was ready.
That's great.
And I'm much better at it.
How do you feel that work as an educator fed you as an artist?
Because if you're training people every day, it's coming out. I mean, I've done it from like the grade school level to the college level. If you're teaching it every day and reinforcing it every day, it can't help but affect you. And it reminded me of all the technical stuff that you tend to take for granted once you start working, because but it's. As acting is behavior, as far as I'm concerned, you can never be as good as you will ever be, because there's always one more chance.
I love that. And it's important. I look around and I'm seeing these programs get sliced to pieces, not just high school, but universities now.
One of the big theaters in Chicago spent $53 million on an education wing and then canceled their young audiences series of plays, which is kind of weird.
Right.
Because they got a wing now.
Right, it's sitting empty.
It's just, what are they going to do with that? Then they're going to, they're allowing them to subscribe to their season, but it's like stuff. I would do like study guides for the kids, and like they'd have those a month before they came to see the shows, and really immerse themselves in it. You know what I mean? And we would use the stuff that they learned when we got back to class. The practical stuff, but it just. It was an easy transition for me, and I'm really glad that I was able to figure that out.
That's great. Questions from our audience so far? All right, I'm going to pivot then. So let's talk Where the Mountain Meets the Sea.
Yes.
For the folks who haven't seen it, what's the story, or what's the show about?
It's a show about a father and a son in a different time. The father's an immigrant from Haiti, and the son is the first generation Haitian American, and they have been estranged, and it's the son's journey to retrace his father's steps across the country. Because when his parents were pregnant with him, they took a journey across America to learn of the country and that sort of thing. And so it's just it's telling about their parallel experiences and coming opposite ways. And my son, who's played by Deacon Isabel, is like going through self-discovery, and I am just remembering my journey and and things I went through to become an American.
Yeah. So you're playing the father figure.
Yes.
Tell us about him. What makes this guy tick? Who is he?
Well, he is a hard worker, very loyal, but a fool for love. In the opposite situation would be Kiss a Lot of Frogs, but it's that same kind of thing. It was there, he talks about, him being, he falls in love so easily, and he tends to fall more in love than the other person, and always looking at long term, and whoever it is, and every woman that he talks about, he's taking across the country to show them America, and then they're like, maybe not. so there's a lot of that. And when he finally gets what he wants, and it doesn't turn out the way he had hoped, it's bittersweet. In that those dreams, still unattainable. Yeah,
it's an interesting piece. I saw, like I told you before, I saw it twice last week, and it's a story of a father and son.
Yes.
But the two of you have very little interaction with each other on stage during the piece. Talk to me about structuring that relationship, what you did in the rehearsal room.
The rehearsal room was really about developing personal relationships with each other. We talked a lot about our families and a lot about our own growth and our own processes and so we spent it was very emotional. We talked about all these stories. You know, we told a lot of stories. We know. I was saying last night at the post show discussion, we know more about each other, things about each other that we probably never told anybody else.
Wow.
And in order to have that connection, you have to. You know, it's an interesting thing about acting is that it's heightened reality, but you have to be able to trust the people you're working with and be really open and daring and brave and those sorts of things in order to get to the truth.
Yeah.
You know, and so that comes with telling people about your journey and that sort of thing. We all talked a lot about our fathers. Yes.
Yeah, please.
While you're talking about the relationship between you and your son, his character, how does the music play into how you developed and how
It's the music is really intertwined in it. It is.
Sorry, I just got reminded. I have to repeat the question for our folks at home. So you've got the relationship between the son and father, but we also have the relationship with these musicians.
Yes.
Talk to us about the music and also why we need music to tell this story.
I feel like it's not a question of need. It's just a part of the story. It colors it really a lot. And music director is the guitarist and that sort of thing. And then what he talks about last night, as a matter of fact, was he and Awa, who are our band, one of band two, a lot of the atmospheric music and sounds were not scripted. And so they came up with, to nuance the discussions and whatever was happening in the scenes. And so it's evocative and immediate, and it actually draws you in, I feel like, a lot more because of the work that they did. And there's only 5 songs, and there's like a reprise, and we actually cut one of the songs.
Oh.
But we won't talk about that. It's the camera going. Not really. Just at the end, it was like a reprise, and it's an English translation to one of the folk song that we sang in French at the beginning.
Okay.
And it's one of those things when everybody's so full of emotion and that sort of thing. It was kind of like letting them off the hook, and it just didn't. It was jarring, and it didn't feel like it had a place in this specific production. The funny thing about this is that there will never be another production exactly like this because there's not a lot of dramaturgy. There wasn't a lot of stage direction.
Right.
There wasn't a lot of, so we had to create a world in which to exist with this piece.
Yeah, that's great. David, please.
One of the most striking things about the production for me is the sense of intense emotional interaction between the father and the son, which is not expressed.
Right.
And then I'm picking up on what you said about how it took quite some time for your father to come around and accept what you were doing. And in a way, we are seeing that again in the course of this play.
Absolutely.
So I wonder, to whatever extent you feel comfortable with, because David always says, be careful what you ask.
Be respectful.
You could talk a little bit about what you brought from your own experience, knowing from a very young age what you wanted to do.
Oh, yeah.
And knowing also that your father in particular had a very different idea.
Yeah, my father was a computer analyst from the beginning of computers. You know what I mean? He came out of the army and was a technician, and so we are very different. He's the pragmatic one, and I talk about Jean being pragmatic in the script, and that is. I mean, and so when I send pictures to my sisters when I had the costumes on, we're sitting on the stage, and it's like I am my father. And I feel like I honor him every day when we're talking about him all the time, but also just in the way he thought about things. There's another couple of lines where it's like he only sees me work. I taught him work. My father was like that, and he was really encouraging with my sisters and artistic endeavors and that sort of thing, but he had his mind made up, and until he was proven otherwise, because he's always taught us that the best thing you could have is common sense,
So you think you brought some of that?
I think I brought quite a bit. As I said, we spent a lot of time talking about our parents in the rehearsal room, and so Izzy's relationship with his father was quite different from mine, which was also, so that's some of the emotional layering for his character came from that personal story. Absolutely.
Jen and then Judith.
We have about 30 people joining us online. We have
Excellent.
a couple questions from our online audience.
Okay.
Great.
The first one is, can you talk a little bit more about how you prepared to play the role of a Haitian immigrant?
Yeah, talk to us about playing a Haitian immigrant, what you did to prepare for that.
Well, we had a lot of, we got a lot of information. Tim sent us a packet of information about Haiti, and I watched a lot of videos. There's a lot of unrest, of course, going on now, and so we honored that as often as we could. But the biggest thing about Jean is that he's a human, and so the preparation is not nearly as different as it might seem. It's because you get a lot of information from the script, and you try to figure out a lot, especially the script, which didn't have a lot of stage direction, that sort of thing. But you have to figure out what it is where his humanity comes from, and that is part of using my father or using my uncles and that sort of thing, and bringing parts of them to it, because that is what I experienced from all those people. And then I had a dialect coach who gave me just reams of paper with diphthongs and all those sorts of things. And I mean, because Haiti was colonized by the British, the French, and the Spanish, and so it is a true amalgam but basically there's a lot of the French in it. You know what I mean? Because that's the language that they adapted and still speak. And so a lot of that preparation and a lot of that was just personal exploration. We cried in rehearsal every day. There were tears every day about something, because we were sharing stuff that was very personal, and we hope you see that on stage. That is where that comes from.
Yeah, and before I go to you, Judith, really fast, going back to talking about building that relationship, I mean, there really are just some sparse moments where the two of you interact on stage directly with each other. Would it be different if a different actor were playing your son?
I imagine that it would be, but the idea behind that is those journeys they intertwine. Even though we don't talk to each other, there's a connection between the two of us all the time.
Yeah.
That is because of the work we did in the rehearsal.
That's beautiful. Yeah, Judith.
This is a very intimate show, 4 actors in the most intimate space in this very intimate theater. Talk about the intimacy.
Yes.
Of it. And
The biggest thing that we try to do, as I said, one of my philosophy of acting is it is behavior, and so there's a line in the movie Please Don't Eat the Daisies when they go to see Peter Pan and the kids scream, "I can see your wires," and I always think about that. If you can see, I think you probably heard me say that when you were in high school, it is. If I can tell that you're doing the work, and I came up in theaters that are smaller than the room that we're sitting in, and then the audience is this, and so telling the truth is first and foremost. And if you are performing, people can see that when they're this close. It's like in small theaters, they always want me to put on a wig. I'm like, I'm not wearing a wig 3 feet away from somebody. That's all they're going to be paying attention to. You know what I mean? The biggest thing for Timothy, our director, Timothy Douglas, who's fantastic, but the biggest thing was to make sure that we weren't performing, to make sure that we were, and so we do a lot of direct address. We look right in your eyes. Yeah. You've both seen that. We look right in your eyes when we're talking in the show, so that you become a part of it, and I don't have to put on anything, because if I'm not telling the truth, you can say, you don't go on the journey with us.
That's great. Thank you. Other online question, yeah.
Yes, the other online question is, I think it refers to something from a few minutes ago, but they said, is there improv in each production in acting or music, and if so, what is that?
You know what? The improv happens in the rehearsal room. Those are, we use them as exercises. I mean, there's a lot of that, because when you're coming up, there's a lot of discovery, and when you're working in a room like that, you have to have conversations where these kinds of things come up, and so we spent a lot of time working, like trying different things, and then we had a director to shape those into what the final product is, and I mean, there's a lot of stuff that we that we did that didn't work. You know what I mean? But it's trial and error, and we had enough time to be in the room and to do that exploration. And so we played all kinds of games. We did all sorts of things. We'd stop and we told a lot of stories, you know, and we laughed a lot because of how emotional this piece is, you know. But that also brought us better together as a unit. So that's what you see when you see it on the stage.
You may have already just answered this question with what you just said, but I was on board with this show from the second it started. Even just that little pre-show, I'm not spoiling anything here, right? But like, don't worry. But like, the acknowledgement between you and us, and you with each other, and even you all giving the curtain speech, the house rules for the evening, provided such warmth. And this is the three shows that Timothy's directed here have all just oozed warmth.
Yes, and they are so different in scope and size and all that sort of thing. Yeah.
What can you unpack a little bit what that rehearsal room is like? Because there is a feeling to the shows that he's creating.
Yeah, it's you know, he's really wants you to explore. You know, there's no wrong answers when you're working on characters. There's not, because nobody can see the world through your eyes. Wow. And nobody knows your experiences is better than you do. So we were allowed to bring as much as ourselves as we were willing to do, and because all four of us were doing it all the time, like I said, those relationships are real that we are putting on the stage. They're real. They're based in reality. They're based in information that we shared and truth. You know, and that makes it easier to be able to get out there and do this piece, because you know.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot, but it's
in a good way.
Scare off the people who haven't seen it yet. It's not. It's
lovely.
Heavy.
It's lovely, and it's lovely, and it's personal and intimate, and the truth.
Yeah, but it is hitting a chord with people. The first time I saw it, there were people around me who I couldn't even see them, but I could hear their sobs.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And then I took a student group to the matinee on Saturday, and they couldn't find words because they were crying so hard, and I couldn't see the last 10 minutes of the show because the tears in my eyes were clouding my vision so bad. Why is this hitting such a chord with folks, do you think?
I mean, it's because everybody is somebody's child.
Yeah.
Whatever that relationship was, everybody's got a mom and a dad, or parents that helped to shape them, and they form the basis of your first memories. Yeah. And so I think it's so resonant because and I've had people say to me after the show, I called my dad, or I got a beautiful message on Instagram from a woman that saw it early last week, and how she was still thinking about her father, and he'd been gone for so many years, and she couldn't stop the tears, and I told her to cry it out and feel, remember, you know. So it's a lot of that because everybody can relate to something in it because of that. And with one of the musicians standing in for Mom and all the other women, you know what I mean? It's like that presence is there as well, so it relates, so everybody can relate to it because we all have that in common.
It's something else. David.
Another thing that struck me so much about this production was the use of music and the importance of the music in the story, but also especially for your character.
Yes.
And I wonder if you could talk a bit about how music has affected you and helped you in your own journey as an actor
we got a lot to
and
talk about
educator from the get-go.
Yeah,
this is a good place. Let's just do it. Let's talk your music story.
Music. That goes back to when I was born too. My uncle, my father's only brother, is Don Cornelius, who was the host of Soul Train. Wow. So I've been around music my entire life. And it never felt like it was too far to reach and that sort of thing. But I never considered myself to be a singer or a musician for many years because I was so focused on theater, and I just thought, it's the musical theater and the theater don't mix, and that was it was ridiculous stuff we used to say when we were young. But the musical theater people kind of isolated themselves from us as well, But when I got old enough to realize that it's all storytelling, that's what and when I talk about teaching, that's the music is, everybody's got music that is so evocative that they can remember at the time of the day, or the smell, or where they were, what they had on, or what the weather was like outside the first time. I mean, I think about, and this is the first thing that came to mind, but I remember the first time hearing Prince's song "When Doves Cry" when I was in the car. I was like, "What is this?"
Yeah.
And I can tell you where I was on the street, the time of day, what I was wearing, and it's a weird thing, but it was just, and I ran in the house and I was saying to my sister, "Oh my God," and she's like, "I heard it." I said, "Oh my God," that's all I said, and she said, "I heard it." You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
But that's the way. There are songs that bring up memories, but that help you tell stories, or that bring up certain emotions, and memories and that sort of thing. And so I was always music adjacent. I was a DJ when I was in a radio disc jockey when I was in college, and I thought that's the way I was going to go, because I thought, because I had that degree that my father paid for, which that's another story. But I fell into this music career, as a matter of fact, by doing a variety show with a friend of mine, and it was 4 lines from the song "Hot Fun in the Summertime" by Sly and the Family Stone, and I did a little bridge part. And the partner of the woman whose variety show it was like, "Well, we're going in the studio and we'd love you to come in and do some hand claps and some spoken word." And I thought, okay, great. That'd be great. By the time I left, I'd done harmonies on 4 songs.
Wow.
He gave me a cassette, I should tell you how long ago it was, and said, "Learn these 4 songs. We're doing a show, an Earth Day show out in this beautiful, museum park, and on the lakefront." And I thought, "Oh, this will be great." And I took the bus down. It's like just not really thinking. It's like, this will be great. And I get off the bus and I cross Lakeshore Drive, and it's 10,000 people out there for my first public show. And like state representatives, and the mayor was there, and I was like, "What are you talking? How does this my first show?" But he looked at me. I'll never forget. He looked over. He said, "You ready, Bobby?" And I was like, "Oh, okay. That's what we're doing."
Yeah.
And then and that's how, because it was like they had already had some measure of success before I joined, and so they were like, "No, it's no big deal." I'm like, "I'm sorry. You said we're gonna have a little show. We'd love to have you come join us on these 4 songs." And 2 years later, I was on a tour bus and going across the country. And 10 albums later, I'm still with them. Man, we are having our 40th anniversary. I've been with them since 1993. They started in Hawaii in 1986. They moved to Austin, Texas in 1987, and they moved to Chicago in 1990.
What's the name of the group again?
Poi Dog Pondering.
That's right. Awesome. And you've been a part of a couple other ensembles too.
Oh, I have my own band, which was an offshoot of Poi Dog. Actually, everybody that has a side band in Poi Dog Pondering has Poi Dog Pondering members in it. So it's like, it's like 14 bands with, we just, everybody's got, but everyone has a different front man or front woman. And so there's different points of view. And so it's a really big part of how I got more comfortable on stage. It's an interesting thing about the immediate gratification of doing a 3-minute song and having like 30,000 people go wild.
Right.
Because we opened up for Dave Matthews, which was insane. They flew us out to Red Rocks to get on our tour bus to come across the country. I mean, every time I say it, it's like, what the hell? And if the interesting thing, specifically, the song "Young Americans," the background singing part on "Young Americans," it was my unattainable goal to like be able to sing "Young Americans," like tour with a rock band as a singer, and just be able to sing that song. And I actually got to do that, in front of thousands of people in Seattle. But that's, and all of a sudden I was in this band. I was like, okay, now I have to change my goal, because I reached that one. I thought that was going to be the thing, but it was not, and it's not anymore. It's been a blast to get to do that, and now that we are all older, we just get to come together and do a couple big shows a year. So like this one in August is happening for the 40th anniversary. Right. It's like in an outdoor park and. In a suburb called Aurora. It's called Riverwalk. It's going to be like 12 to 15,000 people, and just an extravaganza. And we get to do that and bring everything back to that we have all gone and done. Like the lead singers in Thievery Corporation and tours with them all the time, and the violinist has worked with John Mellencamp and Charlie Sexton and Alejandro Escovedo, you know what I mean? So, and saxophone player is the musical director for Brian Wilson.
No way. That's amazing. That's really cool.
So, so he missed a few shows when they were touring a couple of years ago, but that's so it's, I mean, we've all got these careers, but we are thrilled to come back and bring all of the stuff that we've learned outside of that circle into that family and for our shows, and we do pretty epic live shows. So.
And it sounds like the music feeds you in a different way than the acting does.
Yeah, it's the same. I had to learn that it was the same because I didn't think about being an actor, being a singer as disciplined in a rock band.
Yeah.
You know, as disciplined as being an actor and having, set rules or that sort of thing. And so when we were on, I remember our second tour, I would notice that like they get off the bus and in their street clothes and just be ready to go on the stage, and these thousands of people. It's like, guys, we have to it's a show.
Yeah.
There's lights on us, and these people, and that doesn't matter to everybody, but we people would be backstage until it was time to go on, and I was like, well, we have a stage manager, and and a half an hour, that's it. Nobody can come backstage anymore, and we just had some time to settle and become a unit before we go out, and these are big shows, and so we started doing that, and we warmed up together, and we started doing yoga together, and then we get a massage therapist to come if we were doing a run of shows, and it changed the way we thought about. We were more responsible. We felt like we gave much more respect to the people that came to see us, and we still do that to this day. What are you wearing? You got a color palette that was sent out in an email, and so you can express yourself, but we still want to look like a unit, and so that I brought from the theater to the music. There's the question in the back there.
Right here and then right here. Yes, please.
As a musician, you would probably be able to go back to things you played before, reinterpret. As an actor, are there roles, characters that you'd like to reenact?
Absolutely.
What are the roles you want to go back to?
It's a funny thing. One of the first, my acting teacher after I got out of college was a woman named Jane Brody, who was worked with Michael Shurtleff, who wrote the book Audition, and she gave me a Cassius monologue from Julius Caesar, which I still do. And knowing what I know now, and after 25 years, I'd been out of that class, and I did it one day, and I was like, oh, So the answer to that is every role. It'll always be the best the week after it closes.
It's got to be okay with that.
As soon as, it's like, just give me one more shot. I just did Dreamgirls for 5 months at 2 different theaters.
Oh, wow.
And the last day we were like, ooh, one more week. Got to nail some stuff down. You know what I mean? It's because it's a journey. You know what I mean? It's like, and when you think of it that way, it always gives you something to aspire to.
That's great. Judith, please.
Your voice was definitely meant not just to speak, but to sing.
Thank you.
Also, your body was meant to move, and there's a wonderful moment where you are dancing.
Yes.
If you would talk about Dane, the movement in this is so beautiful. It
is. And a lot of it was her watching us and then shaping and forming. It was. It is, especially for Jean. I feel like the movie is really important because it shows how immersed in the music he is, because he talks about folk music all the time.
Yes.
And so the movement. The part of it. The part of it where I have my eyes closed and I'm dancing with it. That was I came up with that. But so Dane had to get me to that and in and out of that and that sort of thing. But It was a lot of it was organic. She gave us a lot of freedom to explore how our bodies would move, and then shaped it, and so that it helped to tell the story.
You may want to talk about Dana's.
Yeah, can you share anything about Dane, the choreographer?
Yes, she is fabulous. She is really great and spent a lot of time with us in the emotional parts, and talked about her father as well and her journey. And part of that left us very open to whatever she had to offer to us, and we were really receptive to that. And there's not a lot of it, but like I said, but it is used specifically to move the story forward.
That's great. David, again, please.
We've talked a lot about relationships between fathers and sons, but you gave a very interesting little anecdote when you heard that song and you said, "What is this?" And you ran into your mama?
My sister.
Your sister, okay. So I want to see the relationship there and the influence that your sister and your mama had on you.
Well, my mother, who's she's still trying to get here. I don't know if she can, but she's my best friend. She lives with me and in Chicago, and she is the kindest, funniest person I know. And she told me when I was 6 to follow my heart.
So she supported you from the beginning.
Always. So, she said, and it was literally, if you want to stay in the house and draw, if you don't want to play sports, you do stay in the house and draw. Do whatever makes you happy. And she reinforced that. She still does. It's like, I don't know if I can leave town for this show. She's like, why not? Let's go do it. She's just like, what are you stressing about? She's really funny, but she's also really kind and really smart. And all of us, we have her side of the family. I have like 29 first cousins. We all grew up with like brothers and sisters, and all my aunts. So she is the the last sibling alive. So she's the matriarch of all of us now, pretty much. But she's just great. I love her so much, and she's so smart and fearless. She is the reason that we are kind. And and every man in my family, we all cook, we all are nurturers and that sort of thing, because they raised a lot of sensitive, passionate, caring men.
Love that. Thank you. Any other questions, please?
What struck me was that toward the end, where the father was saying, "You're not only my special boy, but you are very special."
Yeah.
So he was like supportive right from the start.
Yes. And part of it is we create realities in our own heads that have nothing to do with the world at large. So Jonah thinking that his father might not accept him or whatever has nothing to do with what his father thought about him.
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep it a little vague for the people that see it, but that you understand what I'm saying? Yeah.
Any other questions? Earlier you mentioned Instagram, which made me think of the moment in the show when you talk about Instagram. Yeah, and it gets a little laugh, right?
Yeah.
Like the idea of your character signing up for Instagram to connect
and
with
email even.
Right. But the laugh is in part, it's in part because look at the old guy on social media,
Right.
but it's also like it's a sweet gesture to try to connect with a different generation.
Absolutely, yeah. My mother also she's very internet savvy. She's got she doesn't like that old people don't have smartphones thing. She doesn't play that.
That's great.
She has a laptop, an Audible, a Kindle, anything you need, she's got it. She shows me how to do stuff that I didn't even know about. So
it's and when it reaches that moment, especially the second time I saw it, I was like, oh, this is a play in part about generational divide.
Absolutely.
Right. And I think the generational divide is really pronounced right now in the world, where I feel like Gen Z, millennials, boomers, we're all just coming up with these titles to turn against each other, right?
Somebody's coming up with them, turning us against each other.
That's what they seem to be there for.
Right.
I'll go first as like for me to connect with folks younger than me, I probably need to learn a little more about something like TikTok, right? Which every time I open it, I'm like, I don't get it.
I don't get it.
But what are the things that maybe you need to do to connect with other generations of people?
Well, I
below
worked
you?
with teenagers
Yeah.
for years and years, and so the thing that I did to stay current was listen to the music that they listened to. I was able to talk about the shows that they talked about, and because otherwise it was just some old guy just like, you don't know it, and so, but the biggest thing is to listen to them because their voices are more important than what I have to say. Is I'm trying to get them to express themselves, and that is a big part of that is just listening.
Yeah. That's and the medium they're talking through matters less than what they say.
It really does. It's I think about when a song came out. I was doing a play in 2005, and I was driving out to rehearsal, and my friend paged me.
Speaking of technology changes,
And I was like, who is this girl on the radio? And I can't remember who it was right now, but it was like, it had been the number one song for like 8 weeks, and we had no idea. So all of a sudden, there was a generation behind us, and it ended up being Pink. As a matter of fact, I love Pink, and I think that she became a great rock star. But it was like at the time, she was kind of a big deal, and we were oblivious to it, and we knew everything, So
I love it. You talked about the tears in rehearsal, right, and crying every day. What do you do to take care of yourself in a process like this?
I am a homebody. I cook.
Great.
I love to cook. I've cooked since I've been here. It's meticulous and quiet and immediate gratification. As soon as it's done, you can eat it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But with Big Cats, for Dreamgirls, we were all out of town, and a lot of us from out of town when I was in Boston, and I would have Sunday dinner.
That's lovely.
And with the first week of rehearsal, when we were in East Haddam at Goodspeed, I announced on Thursday that I like to cook. It's like it was a big old cast and crew. But it's like 3 things about yourself, and I told them, people call me Uncle Bobby. I like to cook, and we're having Sunday dinner. And I cooked for like 35 people that I had just met. But the beautiful thing about that was somebody said, I thought flippantly, a couple days before, well, what's the attire? And I go, grown and sexy, So after, because I just thought it was, So I'm cooking, and first two of the castmates come over, and they've changed clothes, and a couple of the guys, and they're coming to help me set up. And I was like, y'all want to change clothes? Like, well, you said attire, and every person went home and got dressed.
Wow.
And came over. I get emotional talking about it still.
I love that.
Every single. I was overwhelmed. They were like, "You're gonna go change clothes, right? You're gonna go change clothes before people get here," because I was cooking. And they were like, I'm like, are you serious? And then when they, the first, maybe 5 people came up, oh my God.
Yeah.
I had to go upstairs and put on like an outfit. Otherwise I just look like the help,
Oh, no.
But that is a bonding thing.
Yeah.
It's talking about, that we were able to take into the rehearsal room, and, it was a tough time at Goodspeed, but because we were so close, and we were in the middle of nowhere, pretty much. Yeah. We got very, very close, and all of that translated to the stage as well. Man, it's an interesting thing. We still have our chat group. We talk all the time. We just found out our choreographer and the woman who played Effie got nominated for an award at Connecticut Critics, and but it's just creating a family is more. I mean, it's like I did that with high schools. You were in an ensemble, and they were helping each other. They were lifting each other up, because you learn as much watching other people get critiqued as you do working yourself. I always believe that, and so because you have to filter it for yourself, because nobody can see the world through your eyes.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yes, David.
You talked about how this production is a voyage of discovery for you.
Yes.
To find the character and connect it to your life. what other roles would you like to do?
I'm actually doing a dream role right after this, as I'm playing Becker and Jitney.
Oh,
I know, which is really exciting. I got to do Bynum and this is August Wilson as a playwright. Joe Turner's come and gone. I'm going to be West in Two Trains Running in the spring.
Wow.
So if I can get in all 10 of those August Wilson plays, those are a lot of the dream roles. But I've also a script that we did the world premiere for, the play that I was a part of, from workshops to production at the Goodman Theater in Chicago, just got published. So, this is one of the plays that I had to leave the job for. It's both of those have been published, so I'm like part of posterity because of that. I mean, and some of the best roles I've played are in those original pieces.
Yeah.
And it's nice to know that I will be connected to those throughout eternity.
It's amazing. Love it. Any other questions, folks? Great. Why this show now? Why do we need this show now?
Well, we talked about that a lot, and I think we probably have answered some of it earlier, but it is because, I guess I said this in the video too. Family is first, and secrets keep you apart, it's better to be open and share and tell your truth, more than, because the reality you create in your head is always so far from the truth. But if you don't ever express it, you'll never know the difference.
Yeah.
Oh,
man, that's great. So when you're not singing, acting, teaching, education, directing, cooking all there is left, or what are you doing with your?
That's pretty much it. I'm gonna go into DC and see some stuff I haven't seen in 20 years, but I watch tennis. I play a little tennis. I like to swim. I just saw today that my health club has a branch here. I'm just, I pay a little more, but I get to go swimming for the last month when I'm here, which is very exciting.
That's great.
Yes, I'm going to do that after I leave here, as a matter of fact. But yeah, that's pretty much fills it up when I'm auditioning for stuff. I've got all of a sudden New York casting agents this is my 5th production on the East Coast all of a sudden. And so now, people are like, who is this guy? And, somebody called my agent and was coming to see the show, and which I've never had happen before, but it's pretty freaking cool. I'm not gonna lie to you. So that's exciting. It's, like I said, it's a journey, and most of the things I am getting out of life right now are because I'm getting to share so much with other people and collaborate and make art.
I love that. Here, and then back over to Judith. Yes.
Robert, I think you said last night that your dad passed.
Yes, 2002.
If he had seen the play last night, what do you think he
Well,
He would have probably, well, he's kind of a salty mouth figure, but he would have probably said, "So you're just imitating me on stage. You're just playing me." He would have recognized a lot of himself in it. Yeah, I'm pretty sure, because I see a lot of him in it, and even when discussing it in the clips on the videos, it's like, yeah, wow, he would say that. It's an odd thing to hear your father's words come out of your mouth, but it's been happening for almost 30 years now.
Yeah.
So it's like, start to say, whoa, I guess he was right, about some things.
Right.
So yeah.
What's this show teaching you?
Compassion. It is, it's a journey of discovery for Jean as much as it is for Jonah. I think that the parallel aspect of their lives and how they are discovering what America means to them is, travels across the generations. And I think that is the most beautiful part of it is I feel like I'm paying homage to family.
I love that.
And to parenthood and to being a son, or a daughter, or just to being a child. I'll make reference to that, but God help us, boy. But it is. everybody can relate to it, and that
Yeah.
is the thing that I love the most.
And I think everybody can relate to it regardless of what their relationship with their parents
Right,
are. I think
because it covers all the bases.
it does.
Yeah.
I think like you hear initially, oh man, if you've got daddy issues, but it's not really that. It's just if you have had a parent.
If you've had a parent, and however toxic it may be, or the opposite of that, you have memories, and part of that is what shaped you into the person that you are. And so, to be able to look back on that fondly is, what, or for whatever it is, because my tears weren't because it was traumatic to have those memories. It's like, whoa, I didn't really think about how much that meant to me at the time, but it makes a difference.
It absolutely does.
I think you've just really answered this, but I've talked with both Deacon Izzy, who plays Jonah, your son, and Awa, and they've both talked with me about how healing this experience has been, and from what you've just said, that's true for you too. Yeah,
and it's not so much like I was suffering or anything like that, but it's like to bring that stuff to light is it is comforting, it is to realize that you are a part of a legacy, because we all are, we can, no matter how short or how far you trace your lineage, it's like we come from somewhere, and it shapes who we are. I have common sense because of my dad, and a sense of humor because of my mom, and they are my heroes. So.
Any other questions? We're winding down to our final minutes. Jumping back to, went fast, huh? Jumping back to beginnings of your story, who were the artistic inspirations for you growing up?
Oh, geez, well.
And then who are they now is the follow-up to that.
I mean, the artistic inspirations were, if you think about the time it was Ossie Davis and Ruby Dee and Sidney Poitier, and but also Carmen de Lavallade and Jeffrey Holder, who choreographed The Wiz, and Alvin Ailey, and all those, and there's, I think about the actors, from that, Brock Peters, and, even names like Thalamus Rasulala, who it's like with TV actors and that sort of thing. But I also, I'm a classic movie fan. So like Paul Newman and Marlon Brando, and I watch TCM almost, as much as I watch tennis, because classic Hollywood movies, they could tell a story better than, like with what seemed like, $15, you know what I mean? And there'd be these extravagant, like funny comedies, and like, but then I recently watched The Dirty Dozen for the first time in a real long time. It's like, wow, I forgot how good this is. It is, I'm not really a genre person, but because I get inspiration from anything that I expose myself to.
Yeah, totally.
So, my favorite movie is All About Eve.
Oh, okay. I love that.
It's about show people, and it's just, we got a roommate of ours years ago. Joe Mankiewicz' working script. He got it for his birthday.
Wow.
I mean, stuff like that. I mean, I could like recite the movie. You know what I mean? But then my second favorite movie is Shawshank Redemption. Which is like completely, and Princess Bride is in my top 5.
Amazing. I love it.
And so. It's all over the place, and Singing in the Rain is also in the top 5. You know what I mean? It's just the perfect music.
It is.
It's perfect.
Yep.
It's ridiculous how good it is, and I can watch them 100 times. So I get inspiration from it, and then I can listen to music. We always have music on in the background at home when we were kids. If we were cleaning up on Saturday morning, and if we were, getting ready to go to church on Sunday, if we were like, if after dinner, my dad was always listening to music, and he listened to jazz, but he also had Beatles records, and when we were 5 or 6, we got to get our first 45, and and my first 45 was by Miriam Makeba, which my sisters thought was crazy, but it was just such a bop, what I mean? And Pata Pata it's a great song. It still just gets me going, and they understand now. They're like, okay, well, I get it, but it's all over the map. I feel like the more art you consume, the more kinds of art you can make.
Totally. Totally. Final question for the day. You're on that stage, whether it be the stage in the Arc or somewhere back in Chicago or wherever you're performing. How does that feed you? What does that give you?
You know, it's really the people that I'm around. You know, we create these communities, you know, out of nothing in weeks, and to be able to look at somebody's eyes and have that experience, and to know that that you have this trust that people can't even fathom most of the time is really thrilling, you know. And it's all, and you know, somebody might go up, or you know, no day is the same as the day before, and that is that's a treat to have that, to be able to be on a journey and to learn something and to be able to do different things every day.
Thank you for sharing your journey with us.
Thank you for having me.
so much. We'll see you back in the fall. Have a good summer. Come see Where the Mountain Meets the Sea, everybody.
Yes. Absolutely.